Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 333, The Big Ol Mailbag. 333!
Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hey there, Animation Addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
So today is a fun episode. We've gotten just a few little voicemails here and there and some emails that people have sent. And so we are going to combine those all into a good old mailbag. We're going to listen to them. We're going to read them. Of course, if you'd like to send us your voicemails for a future voicemail bag episode, you can go to rotoscopers.com/voicemails or give us a call at 406-646-6575. And then, of course, can send us a voice note on your phone and email it at contact@rotoscopers.com. And if voicemails aren't your thing, then you can, of course, send us an email at any time, contact@rotoscopers.com. But I'm also going to include a voicemail survey that basically is you can just go to this survey at any point in time and fill out your name, email address, and your question. And it will just populate it in a big spreadsheet for us. So whenever we do these, we can just read them. So that's going to be at rotoscopers.com/voicemail. What should I call it?
Voicemail survey.
Sure. Rotoscopers.com/voicemail survey.
This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so with that, let's jump into some voicemails, shall we? I'm going to kind of pepper in between the voicemails, some of the questions. Now, our first one, I'm pretty sure is some sort of prank because this is not real. This is not real. This is Brittany Letitia Goad Mavis, in quotes, Marceline Dizkensky. And if this isn't a joke,
I'm glad that you put
what a
this
name
on first.
What?
I'm glad you're like, I think this is a joke, but I'm going to do it first. Top billing.
Yes. So the troll, gets top billing. And I'm just going to give you just a brief little playing of this. I don't think this, was this a butt dial? I don't know, but for funsies, here we go. Listen, everyone. Got laughing.
Just say in Taco Bell. Sorry, what's up, Becca? Pizza Hut.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
I don't know what's happening there, but
You're being tortured. I'm on.
Tortured.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Pizza with extra cheese.
Extra cheese.
You're gonna to Reno.
Oh, Reno.
Now it does say Pizza Hut Taco Bell. Yeah.
Pizza Hut Taco Bell. I do like those. I have to say, like those, it's nice when you're like on a long road trip because they would have these like in northern Arizona as I'm like heading out to like Vegas or something. They have this like Pizza Hut Taco Bell kind of thing. And I'm just like, I appreciate the options. So thank you.
Yeah. So, there's that. That's the first one to kick it off for the new year.
I love it.
Good times. Now, the next one, we'll just go into another voicemail before we do some questions. This is good old Jeremiah, and he has some thoughts on Wild Robot and Sonic 3. So with that, take it away, Jeremiah.
Hi, Rotoscopers. It's Jeremiah. Before we talk about the best and worst animated films of 2024, I want to talk real quick about Sonic 3. Needless to say, not fully animated, but you guys did review it and did really like it. I just wanted to say I thoroughly enjoyed Sonic 3. All of my siblings did. They are all video game nerds. My sister in particular is a huge Sonic fan, and I have rarely, if ever, seen such giddy jubilance on her face, especially when they, small spoiler alert, played Live and Learn. We went to see it twice, but you guys did say that Sonic himself went largely unchallenged and unchanged in the film. Now, there's truth to that. Think of Disney's Robin Hood and Little John. Not very deep characters. Nobody's looking for them to have much of an arc or be that deep or be wildly different by then. They're just very entertaining, lovable, larger-than-life characters. Sonic, to me, is often like that in various video games and shows. And it's funny to me that sometimes people fully acknowledge that that can be a good thing in a film like Robin Hood, which is very plot-driven and comedy-driven, but not acknowledge that in another story and comedy-driven film like this one. Also, Sonic does not go unchallenged. You guys never once mentioned Tom gets roughed up really bad.
Tom.
He is knocked to the floor. He has an oxygen mask when he is taken away. Sonic is torn up about it, rightly, and that nobody cares about Tom. And I get it. Nobody cares about Tom. Nobody's watching Sonic 3 for Tom. But he's a nice guy, and he's Sonic's dad. What do you mean? And Sonic doesn't face anything akin to what Shadow goes through. And just because Tom doesn't die doesn't mean Sonic doesn't also go through something difficult, even if it was to a lesser degree than Shadow. And it was seemingly hard for him to resolve to be kind to Shadow, which, to say the least, is understandable. So yeah, Sonic is a flawed film. It has some banger moments and failed moments, particularly not all the comedy worked. But this criticism that Sonic doesn't change, doesn't face anything, doesn't change his mind about anything, didn't land for me. Okay, favorite films of 2024. I'll get straight to it. It was The Wild Robot. I was deeply moved by Inside Out 2, and I really wondered if it would be my favorite because it was so unique, imaginative, and well done. But The Wild Robot, man, I don't know if you remember, I once awarded everyone who worked on the film The Little Prince chocolate-covered kudos. Well, everyone who worked on this film all deserve all the chocolate-covered kudos. It was, of course, visually beautiful. The score was equally so. I really enjoyed the story, humor, and voice acting. And all the characters, but especially I was so touched by Bright Bill's story. As somebody who is myself psychologically disabled and neurodivergent, seeing him work through his disability and survive impacted me deeply. I cried in the theater. I am not a crier at movies. It rarely happens. I'm not a crier in general. But The Wild Robot did it. I have not seen Moana 2. By all accounts, it's pretty, but not very good, and I am waiting for it to come out on Disney+. I love the original Moana as much as anyone, and I know it's fun to watch what's popular with their friends. But if you like being happy, see The Wild Robot. That's a good way to go. Chris Sanders is a genius. At this point, I think he deserves to be up there, considered to be up there with the best of the best. All right, cheers. Happy New Year's, guys. New Year. I am joining you in the no phone January. Thank you for the motivation to do that. I'm also continuing to go to the gym every week. This voicemail is a bit long. I don't know if Chelsea will have to edit this down, but in any case, thank you guys for a great year of podcasting. I look forward to what you bring in 2025. Bye.
We shall never cut down your voicemails, Jeremiah.
Okay, there's maybe once or twice, but this one you're good.
Oh, then be prepared for the next one, Chelsea. It's double. No, okay. So there's quite a few things that were talked about here. So first, let's talk about the Sonic 3. I mean, he made some good points. Why are we being so tough on Sonic 3 and we weren't so much on, Robin Hood? I don't know, nostalgia, and maybe
it is nostalgia, 100% with that movie. No one, because you saw it as a little kid, nobody cared. Like, you just knew that's what it was, and so you understand it better. Mm-hmm. And then when you get older, you're like, wait. Mm-hmm. So yeah. The joys of the youths.
And he talked about Tom, like, hey, he said he didn't go through anything, but there was Tom. And I'm like, oh yeah, there was Tom. And that's the funny thing is as these Sonic movies have progressed, they've just really diminished the importance of the human characters. For better or for worse, I don't know. I really like Tom and I think he's great. And they had that little moment of the heist that they did. Mm-hmm. But every movie, they're just kind of less and less. And they're just like, we're just going to go all Hedgehog plus Eggman. Basically, and we don't need. We've kind of outgrown you, yeah. But I hope we still see more Tom in Sonic 4. Okay, so before we move on to some of the other things that he talks about with Wild Robot, let's talk about the Sonic versus Mufasa effect.
Oh,
and post box office. So we hadn't really. When this movie came out, we didn't really have a lot of box office information. So I'm here and I'm going to update you on how those movies have done. So
update me, please.
Yes, Sonic 3 and Mufasa have been going back and forth, battling it at the domestic box office.
Still?
And still last week, Mufasa, I guess, finally went over and beat out Sonic. But when I'm looking as of today, it shows, this is like one day behind on the box office dailies. But right now, it's showing Sonic the Hedgehog has $231.18 million in domestic totals, whereas Mufasa has 230.91 domestic. So barely by 2,000. Wait.
Can we do a GoFundMe and just push them back?
There's just barely $1 million difference that's happening with these. Yeah. So 231 versus 230 if we're going to round up. Not even, because it's 231. If you round up the other one to 231, it's like 230. There's $100,000 difference between them right now,
right?
Which is crazy. But the spread as far as the domestic and the international is where a lot of this is really happening. So international. So the breakdown, Sonic is 49.9 domestic and 50.1 international. So very much a U.S. heavy, North American heavy franchise. Whereas Mufasa, a lot of times the Disney does really well internationally. 35.3 is domestic and 64.7 is their international. So worldwide, Mufasa is the king with 654 million and Sonic has 463 million. So there's a 200 million differential there.
Bummer.
And yeah, but it's interesting because they kept going at it. I mean, even to this day, I mean, these were the dailies of yesterday, and I'm trying to see just to see, on a random, what was this? A random February 5th, a random Wednesday in February. Mufasa's number 5 in the box office still with 338,000. Sonic was number 7 with 171. So there was a period where Sonic was doing so much better than Mufasa, and Mufasa just has these legs. And Moana 2 still, for some reason, is at number 8, 145,000. And that is just the little engine that could. They've done 454 million domestically, and they passed the $1 billion mark a few weeks ago, and they're 1.038 billion, with a big fat B. So, wow. I mean, we made some predictions as far as box office and, quarter 4, I guess it's Disney's quarter 1, whatever, at the true quarter 4, December, November box office. I really thought that Moana was going to crash and burn, and it had this amazing opening weekend, and it just has kind of just had a slow burn since then, and hasn't done as poorly as I thought it would.
I mean, that makes sense if you're looking at, for example, Elemental. That one had very poor ratings, like when it first came out, but because it was the only thing around, it just kind of filled that gap, and so ended up making a lot more money. And I think that's probably what's happening here too. Is Sonic is the boy film, and Moana is. It's boy and girl, so it ends up having. Yeah, but I would assume it's a little more heavy on the girl.
Okay, so next he talked about The Wild Robot, and I loved his appreciation for that movie and how it resonated with him, and Bright Bill, and I'm interested to see if Jeremiah would go see Flo and how he would compare the two. So maybe that's an assignment. Jeremiah, we're giving you an assignment. Go see Flo. I mean, he may have listened to the episode or not, but go see it and compare, give us a little book report comparing the two and the similarities and differences. But the disability aspect I really thought was great about that movie. And also that Chris Sanders is the GOAT for sure. I love Chris Sanders.
And then he joined us on our no phone.
The reason I want to mention the disability aspect, because last night I put on a movie or my husband did, that was from 2024, and it was called Unstoppable. And it is about a wrestler who has one leg who goes on, and I vaguely know of this, so I'm assuming he goes on to win some sort of big championship at the end of it all. Yeah.
Big one.
But it's interesting because he actually went to Mesa High, where my husband went to. And so it's funny, they don't film at the exact same schools, but they use like the colors. He's like, that's not how the Mesa High Letterman jackets were. They had white sleeves, and then, this guy ends up
going research.
This guy ends up going to ASU, and notoriously ASU in the 2012-ish era, they introduced the pitchfork, which, OG Sun Devil fans don't really like the pitchfork. It's because they did this deal with Nike for them to be like their number one like apparel provider, and they designed this pitchfork logo, and now the pitchfork was over everything. But like everyone loved Sparky, the design. It was designed by an old Disney animator. It's just classic, iconic. And so in this movie, even though it's set around 2005-ish, there's a pitchfork there, and we're all like, didn't exist, anachronistic.
That's really funny.
So anyways, that is another movie. It's on Amazon Prime now. That, I mean, even in just the opening scenes, like the grit and tenacity that this guy had just to never give up. Like they have at ASU, they're having walk-ons for the wrestling team. And the coach says like, how many of you won state championship or for your school? How many of you got runner up? Like literally everyone's raising their hand. He's like the best of the best kids. And then they go and they're doing these trainings, and they're having to like run a mile, and they have to run the bleachers. And this guy on his crutches, because he has one leg, is doing this and just like not giving up. It's incredible. So we're, half hour into it, and I'm excited to watch the rest. So just kind of that reminded me, the disability Wild Robot aspect reminded me of this one, and like these stories of people overcoming their disabilities and just thriving despite that is just such a great story.
Yeah. And side note of Spencer, I was talking to him about that guy once, and he was just like, oh yeah, I talk to him all the time. I was like, you would.
That's awesome. Okay, and the last part, the no phone January. Woohoo! We had someone else who joined us, even though was not necessarily the most, like we said, do it, whatever works, whatever in your practice, as the yogis say. And, so far, so I had my whole week where I did no social media, was off the podcasts and audiobooks, although I found it really difficult to do chores, really mundane, boring chores without the podcast. So I brought that back in, but I made sure like not to have my headphones in when people were around, like really do that when I'm solo. And so I did that. And, coming back to the social media was so much easier. It was like, oh, I don't, like after a few days, you kind of forget it exists. You're like, I don't need to check that as much. So there really is like a detox period with those first few days.
Yeah, it is. And I am still, so I have still deleted YouTube and Instagram off of my phone because it was just like, I have so little discipline. It's just like, oh, it's so bad. But even now, like I allow myself to listen to stuff on my laptop, but not on my phone. Yeah. Because at least I'm like, okay, I can have a little bit more of a judgment-based situation. But I have been able to get so much more done. And also I feel like my creativity is spiked more. And that's one of those interesting things because you're no longer just like death scrolling. Yeah. And therefore you can actually let your mind think. Yeah. And let your thoughts wander. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, we really do need to be bored sometimes. Yeah. And with this world that we have come into, multimedia's everywhere, and we're just so but so just inundated with listen to me, as opposed to like listening to yourself and letting yourself just kind of wander a little bit when it's very helpful. And so, I am going to continue a little bit longer with this for myself. Yes.
Yeah, I've continued as well. Like I re-downloaded Instagram just to check a few messages. And
I do need to reach out to a couple people and tell them why I haven't responded.
Yeah. I had people that were like sending me things and I'm like, oh, sorry. I didn't feel the need to post like, hey guys, I'm doing a social media break. Right. No one cares. Like, you know what I mean? Just do it. And so there were a few people that was like, hey, sorry, it took me a week to respond. This is why. And people are like, oh, it's awesome. So yes, continue if you must, if you want to. If you never started, just do it for a week. I mean, even a day. Start for the day. I think the first day will be the hardest. And as I think by day 3, it's like, okay, this is the new normal. I'm kind of getting in the groove. Deleting the apps really just limits the opportunity. And then if you say, well, I want to use this app in the future, after you do your week or however long, say, well, for week 2, if I'm going to use it, I only use it on the computer. Ease yourself back in that way. But I haven't really felt the need. I mean, so that's one thing I did want to mention with this is we said like, oh no, audiobooks, but then I kind of went back to listening to audiobooks occasionally. But at nighttime, I didn't just death scroll. And so I got my book out and I started reading. And so I've been reading a series that my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law recommended. And it's called The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. And they're these little novellas about this girl in the 19th century. And they're kind of like Jane Austen-esque, like that sort of vibe. And it's from her perspective. These are her journals. And I read the first book and I was reading the second one. Problem is, like I'm notorious for this, is that I just fall asleep. Yeah. So they're very short. They're only kind of like 100, 130 pages each. And I have really enjoyed them. It's just fun to get into a new book. There's 8 of them. Apparently they get better and better and better. So if you're looking for a new little fun book series to read, check those out. They're not on Libby or any of the library apps. So what I ended up doing was getting a Amazon Unlimited subscription. And you can just check them. They were doing a deal for 99 cents. And if that's still going, I'll include the link in the show notes, or you go to rotoscopers.com/Amazon Unlimited. No, Kindle Unlimited. You can go to rotoscopers.com/Kindle Unlimited and you can get a free trial there. But yeah, so I was able to snatch all of those books up and check them out. So you can do that too. Anyways, all right, let's do our last voicemail. So we really didn't have that many voicemails, but we do have some questions. But while we're on the voicemail train, let's go to Jeremiah's next voicemail. This one's a bit longer and it's about Spellbound.
Hi, Rotoscopers. It's Jeremiah. I finally watched Spellbound and listened to your review. I enjoyed the opening song pretty well, which set high expectations for the rest of the film. I liked that the song got straight to the main conflict of the film, that the parents are monsters. The oracles were moderately amusing, and I liked their design.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the instruments started matching...
I'm gonna pause it from time to time since it's... Yeah. So that's one thing that I don't think we talked about, is that, maybe we did, I don't know, that the costumes were interesting. Like, they were trying something there with the design of the costumes, and like the dresses had this very like angular jutting out from the side, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Magically floating, I thought, oh yeah, that was so charming and whimsical. I wonder what he was going to sing. And then I thought, I wonder if it's the oracles. Then it showed the oracles about to sing, and I thought, oh no. In their defense, they sing fine and the song is fine. But we really didn't need a song here, and the song itself was forgettable.
Yeah.
Later, why did Alien forget to lock up her monster parents? The film doesn't give us an obvious reason. Is she just incompetent? Then we escape into the dark forest, and we get another song from the oracles. And again, it was one of the poor songs. Not bad, but very mediocre, and the information in the song could have been conveyed just the same in speech so easily. The oracles were a bit funny, but the song really wasn't funny or anything clever musically either.
Yeah, the music just so disappointing with Alan Menken, because he's so accomplished and talented.
Yeah. And it was like this has been my 13th year in the business.
I know.
Oh. Or not 13. It was like 20 or 30th year. 30, I think, because it was Little Mermaid. Mm-hmm. You're comparing this to Little Mermaid? Oh no.
Yeah, my kids are watching Tangled the series, and so there's quite a few new songs that are in that, and they're phenomenal. I mean, they're so good. So yeah, I don't know. Spellbound. Keep going, Jeremiah.
And the visuals are meh. At this point, speaking of visuals, the film looks so drab. The palace at least looks somewhat pretty. It was kind of bland too, but the oracles and patterns were nice, and there was kind of an idea there. As the film went along, it just felt like eating the visual equivalent of soggy cereal. Once we got to the hologue, I was so checked out. Then it turns out negative words hurt you inside the hologue. And this is where the movie fully ticked me off. Alien was literally trying to stop her parents from fighting, not even aggressively, just in a normal tone of voice, and it still came out as magic redness. So, according to this scene, anything you say that isn't super positive, even just discouraging your parents from fighting, is harmful.
Right.
Which I say, bull crap it is. This is such a toxic message in a world where bad things do happen to people, and we need to have the freedom to express our negative emotions. I do think we need to be careful what we show children, and children are malleable, but I don't think children are idiots. So I don't think any child, as a result of this film, is deciding, I'll keep my negative emotions real close to me, never show them to anyone. Never, ever, ever. That is not happening. But I did hate this scene, and it is toxic. Then there was a mother monster suddenly discovering her tiny wings are somehow not vestigial, and she can fly. What the hell? She had been flying this whole time, including when she and her husband were surrounded by the guards. I thought it was a joke in Winnie the Pooh when Owl suddenly flew out of the pit. Only here, they didn't make a joke because this movie has so little self-awareness because this movie is stupid.
Oh my gosh,
right,
yes, thank you.
That ending. I agree that in a film, the parents separating because of bickering feels weak. But I think we're supposed to think they've been constantly bickering for a long time. Still, at this point, I was thinking, wow, this movie is going to fall so flat, it's not smart enough. But then it mostly proved me wrong. What About Me is such a powerful song. Every line counts and feels so forcefully honest. I was so moved, and I was like, crap, I wish this wasn't a better movie. I wish I could recommend this film, and I can't because it's awful. I mean, after What About Me plays, we cut the Flinks booing bugs, and the Flinks tickle their king's armpits to make him belch a barrage of insects. Why?
Why not?
People can't make movies, shouldn't make movies. But about the divorce and people divorcing because they're prideful. Okay, Chelsea, get comfy. It's real talk time.
Oh, okay.
You cannot read minds. I don't know these people. Maybe they left each other in part because of pride, maybe not. But I don't see how you can be certain unless you can read their minds. And Also, extrapolating from the sample size of people you know to the general population doesn't always work. Forgive me, I'm a nerd. We know this by now. Further, sometimes it's better for the better that a relationship ends. Youthful people know that. And frankly, these two characters separate because they are worried to each other badly. It's not prideful to want to be treated well. It's not prideful either to want your child to see a good relationship.
So I just want to say that they didn't show us that they were treating each other badly. Like they literally just was like bicker, and it wasn't even like anything big for somebody to be like, oh my gosh, yes, this is a toxic thing. You both need to get out of this because neither of you are going to go anywhere, right? And so that was my main thing, because they didn't want to go to a place that actually showed you, no, this is not a good situation. Then it dumbed down the reasons for divorce to just a meh, like we just don't get along, which is like, okay, well, at some point in time you did, and there at some point in time this kind of changed. Okay, yes, but okay, so pride, when I say pride, it's like anytime that you look at somebody, you stop asking, okay, how can I improve? And they never show any of that. All of them are just like, well, we're just bickering. Okay, we're done. So it was like, there is no sense of, am I doing anything wrong per se? Do I need to improve something? So these are the reasons why I was very upset with this, because I felt like it set such a low bar to children as far as reasons that their parents can or should get divorced. Oh darn. They fought a day and therefore they're getting a divorce. Like I remember having moments when watching my parents and being like freaked out, like, and excuse me, my parents weren't fighters per se, but they all I would assume most have a moment of a spat. And in those spat of some kind, it was, as a young kid, like I knew that it wasn't going to go to something like that. But at the same time, you're like, but could it? So it's by setting the bar so low, I think you're also just making it so kids are like, very few relationships actually work out, and you can get rid of it if you every time you want. So these are my issues that I had with this.
I will continue.
As a role model and not constant bickering. So yes, I felt the need to come to the defense of these characters. Also, you guys both said that the characters say things will be the way it was before, and that claiming that things will be the way it was before was a cope. At this point, it's like we're watching two different movies. Here's the song. I wish there was a way back to the way it was before, but families don't all grow in one straight line. And since we can't just stay back, well, it's time to close that door. Don't be scared. We'll be fine. I know now we can't go back and that things will have to change. We'll figure out, the three of us, just how. But we won't get that same glow back, and at first it might feel strange. But I love you. You love me evermore, endlessly. Yes, that will be the way it was before. Clearly, they are not ignoring the hardship of the situation. They are acknowledging things are changing, while still saying the parents' love for Elian and Elian's love for them will be the same as it was before. That is more than a cope or masking over the problem, as you put it. It's deeply true. As for the scandal that Elian doesn't clean her room, she's been through it. Can you blame her parents for going easy on her after everything she's gone through? Give her some slack, people. Plus, she's 16. She's going to be an adult in a couple of years, so it makes sense she has more freedom to make her own choices. Further, she says her parents are constantly on her case about not cleaning her room. Okay, so that's my thoughts on Spellbound. I don't feel I got this one as wrong as, say, the 2011 Winnie the Pooh, to rub the salt in the room. But yeah, to say the last to the quality of this film, to put Morgan in you guys' review of the animated Descendants movie, woof. This is an appallingly crappy movie. And it's such a shame because, like Rachel, I did appreciate the message. Thanks, Rotoscopers. Love you both. Bye.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
See, this is what I love. We could have people come, call, and have totally different opinions on it and come together and be happy and just, took different things from it. He talks about those lyrics at the very end. And I think maybe at that point, I was not even listening to the lyrics or what.
I had checked out a lot.
Yeah, I kind of checked out in the movie. But, hearing that, he does have a point about those lyrics. But, and he... honestly, I want to go back and re-record the 2011 Winnie the Pooh because, honestly, I want to just record at the end and re-edit the episode.
Go for it.
I mean, but then it won't make sense. All these other references are Morgan. They keep saying Morgan hated the movie, but it's not that I hated the movie. I did hate the movie. That it just gave it a not as high of a movie because my kids watch that all the time, so it's always on, and I'm just wow. I've said this before. I was so wrong. I just wasn't in the right headspace to review, I guess. But yeah, I love that movie so much. But thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you. Also, to my defense, on another reason why I was so hard on it was just because of how close it hit me, as I mentioned in that review. Mm-hmm. And it was, I feel like one of the major things that I disliked about it was because in family relationships, they're very difficult, and they are not always, but they can be. And for example, in the fact that it's I had these moments where I was taking care of my parents in a situation where it was not something that I wanted to. If I would have taken it as loosely as, well, sorry, Mom and Dad, we're just not getting along anymore. I'm just going to leave you on the side of the road kind of thing. And it was hurtful to me because I felt like there was a lot of depth and a lot of growth and a lot of power, honestly, that came from going through that situation for myself. And even though there were many difficult times, I feel like I am a better person because of it. And to just be so short-sighted on just well, we don't get along, or I'm just not getting what I need right now. So I just felt like there was just a lack of just a lack of growth that comes from loving someone through something. And yes, I understand that you can't live like that forever, but it just felt like the movie was just very flippant with a relationship.
Yeah, and like what Rachel said, which I really kind of is my one of the takeaways that I had from that review was at least they tried. They knew going in.
They shouldn't have.
Okay.
I think they're better. This is where we disagree, you and I. Or I feel like we are worse. We are now dumber for having sat through this whole thing.
No. I don't know. It's a very difficult topic. It probably hadn't really been done too much in animated films, and they did it. They did it poorly, but lesson is never try.
Lesson is never try.
Name that Simpsons quote. All right. Let's go to some more happy topics. We're going to go. We had some, we posted some questions on Facebook and then X, and we had Alex, and he gave us a few random questions. He said, "What's your favorite attraction at a Disney park?"
I
know mine. Indiana Jones. So I'm a Disneyland person, so for me, it's all Disneyland. So Indiana Jones, love. I mean, I remember going when it first opened. It's always one of my favorite rides to go to. One of the first ones I like to go to. And then, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean. And then Splash Mountain. It's an iconic, excellent S-tier ride based on the Brers. They have so much history. I mean, I really think that people have them wrong. And we should do a Song of the South.
We should.
I've been wanting to do that. And actually, those Song of the South characters were not included in the Once Upon a Studio. There were a few characters that won't, but they were notoriously, Disney has scrubbed them from existence. And the Zippity Doodah song, which is just there's so much.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. And it's sad that the Tiana ride that replaced it, I haven't ridden it, but I've watched a lot about it, has just not lived up to expectations for, what Tiana deserved.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it, and the last time I went to any Disney park was Disney World, and I really liked going on the Avatar ride at the Animal Kingdom Park. I thought that was really fun. It's been done before, but you sit on these like saddle type things, and so it makes you feel like you're flying one of the I don't know,
winged
dinosaur, one of the winged creatures. And what was really cool is it actually like they have an air bubble kind of in the middle of it, so it actually feels like you're riding on one and it's breathing. And so they added a lot of things to it to make it just feel really cool. So that's the one that's coming to my head the quickest.
All right. Then what live action movie would you like to see remade as an animated series? Example, Back to the Future, the animated series, is one of my favorites. So I just did a quick little search of current live action movies that have been turned into animated films, quite a bit in the 90s. So we have Jumanji, Ghostbusters, Beatles, Dumb and Dumber, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Men in Black, The Mask, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And I'm sure there's totally more than that, but that's just a handful that I did. And initially, the thing that stands out to me when I'm looking at that list, I'm like, they just decide to make every movie that Jim Carrey was in the 90s into an animated film. We have Dumb and Dumber, Men in Black, The Mask. No,
he wasn't.
No, not Men in Black. Excuse me. That's Will Smith. We have Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 3.
Wow,
that's insane.
Get me his agent. He's good.
Yeah.
Going back to Jeremiah's first voicemail, I was like, that would be a really fun one to see Robin Hood and Little John rocking through the forest some of these times.
Nice. Okay. They said live action.
Oh, okay.
Made into an animated series. So you're thinking of a movie made into an animated, like broaden it out. One that I think of that if done, it have to be done so well, would be The Lord of the Rings. There's so much there. There's so much that was cut, and
leave out the miniskirts.
No miniskirts. Sorry, Ralph Bakshi. We'll get someone different this time. And I think it'd be really, really neat to go to the world of Middle Earth.
That would be fun.
So I was looking at different places where we have questions stored from patrons that have sent stuff, and we did this thing. It must have been once or twice. We called it the Wheel of Rantability.
Wheel of Rantability. Turn. Tell us the rant that
Tell us the rants that we should. Yeah.
Wheel of Morality. Turn. That's an animation.
Animaniacs. Yeah. So I guess we were going to send us all your things that you want us to rant about, and we would put it in a wheel, and then we'd rant about it. But I don't think that ever happened. So here's just a few of suggestions, and let's pick one. Live action. So this goes with the previous one. I think this is what we should do. Live action shows based off of cartoon. Disney shouldn't remake movies if the original is based on an already existing masterpiece. Example, Lion King, Aladdin. Ugh. I've never heard of
agree. But I agree that is, I think should be a rule.
That should be a consensus. Celebrity voices instead of traditional voice artists. We've said a lot about that. And then someone
Canada. Someday they will be the 51st state. That's what I'm hearing. So. What would be funny?
Our brothers in America's Top Hat will truly become one. Brothers and sisters, of course.
Oh, yes. Man.
So let's talk live. The Wheel of Rantability this week is live action shows based off of cartoons. So are we ranting about live action shows so they've had cartoons and they turned it into a live action? So we're talking like Avatar, the live action. Like by show, I guess you could imply
would this be
movie.
Like Sonic based off of Sonic
the Hedgehog video game / TV series? Potentially. Yeah, your interpretation.
That seems like
whatever's in your practice.
I don't have a rant based on Sonic specifically because
I don't think Sonic is
good. When you're basing something off of an already developed title, entity, IP, just make it good. Like you can't just make this as a cash grab, and
that's all we ask for.
People know when it's just a cash grab. Like literally, shot for shot, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Well, why didn't I just watch the same thing? Why don't I just watch the original? Because if you're not going to add anything cool to this, or whatever you're feeling like you're going to add is going to just be like, why? This, you didn't need it. Going down to the Disney shouldn't remake movies if they were based on an already masterpiece. I agree. So this is the rant that I would go in on.
I think of, we have this amazing TV series. We're going to turn it into a movie. And then you're taking a show that has many episodes and then you're trying to cram it into a 90 to an 2-hour film. And one that comes to mind is just doing this terribly is based on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And then they made the movie and they ended up having to change the name to just The Last Airbender because that was the year that Avatar came out. And so they got the rights to that. And that was done by M. Night Shyamalan, who his kids watched it and he was really impressed with it and said, I would love to do this. But he's typically at that point in time, he was kind of not the horror guy, but he was like the
psychological.
Yes, psychological thriller, guy. And
stuff.
He tried and it was terrible. And it's like one of the top movies that people talk about when it's terrible adaptation. So I don't know. Unless you have something really great to offer, just don't touch it. So,
I mean, I also think of something like Pokemon or even The Simpsons when they added the full movies into that. It was just like, you can't really do anything with it. It's just a really long episode, it seems like. And like as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And it's just like, no, it's just a really long episode.
Yeah. All right. So now we have some other questions from our patron question bank. So these are ones that previous patrons have submitted. And we will have an update on the patron program probably next episode. But so should we pick and choose these or should we? I highlighted a few. We'll just take those off the list. Okay. So quick, easy one. Favorite childhood books. I mean, for me, obviously Harry Potter. I loved Heidi. I loved a lot of storybooks. I loved Green Eggs and Ham. I feel like I read that one so many times.
Anne of Green Gables for me.
Oh, nice.
That was a solid one.
Charlotte's Web.
Yes. And then there were, or as we have displayed on the YouTube channel, it was a treasury book of Disney stories of all of these. So that one was something that I, as you can see, was well loved in my library.
Oh, my mom, we had a storybook of a few Grimm Brothers fairy tales. And we would read that over and over and over and over again. And this past year for Christmas, my mom got my sister and I copies of those. And she bought them on eBay. And these copies are pristine. It's like they've never been read, whereas my mom's is just falling apart.
Yeah.
And she's like, she came over to she's like, oh, yours is so nice. So I've been reading it to my kids and it's just really fun to see those old the illustrations and stories, that you're sharing with the next generation.
Heathcliff. I read a lot of Heathcliff books.
Next is Josella asks Disney's monopoly on fairy tales. So what do we think? Does Disney have a monopoly on fairy tales?
Well, to the extent that anytime somebody does, for example, Cinderella, it just seems like one of those second tier DVDs that are coming out at the same time, like the Ice Queen kind of thing. It's because they got there first and because they did them so well, especially during the Golden Age and even into the Silver and Bronze Ages. They have the market cornered, not necessarily a monopoly.
Yeah, and I think Don Bluth tried to do this in the 90s where he would pick other fairy tales that they hadn't done yet and just did them, we're thinking, Thumbelina, Chanticleer, So with my kids, every night I'll read them a fairy tale and I have a website that just has like every single fairy tale ever. And they're like perfectly readability length. So it's like 5 minutes because we've already done 50 minutes of a bedtime routine. We've already read other books, right? This is just that. And, Chanticleer came up the other day. I was like, oh yes, that is based on, and obviously we talked about it in that episode long ago, episode 3. Yeah. I mean, Disney, they do have original stories, but a lot of times Disney really was great at adaptations. And we're talking Walt Disney. You know, his were adaptations of fairy tales, adaptations of books. But now, you know, decades later, we only associate them with Disney, thinking it's like, oh, this is a Disney property.
That's true.
Like, Disney invented this. Like Disney invented 101 Dalmatians. Disney invented, you know, all these other ones, but it's not the case at all. So yeah, I mean, fairy tales, anyone can do them, but man, they just did them. They do them really, really, really well. And so much so that like, well, I don't want to make an animated Beauty and the Beast. Are you kidding me?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you could go for it, but you're gonna have to do something really different.
Yeah. Alex Beavis asks if you could go on a date with an animated Disney character, which one would it be? And I will take that. Thank you. I would absolutely, of course, Prince Eric, because I mean, who wouldn't want to go out on one of those dates, like with the horse and the dancing and all the things? Like, great. I would love to go on that date. Other dates I would like to go on, definitely Prince Philip. He is the top of my list.
Ooh, yeah.
I would like to send a shout out, not a shout out, but like a plug for the episode that we did of 100 Disney inspired dates.
Oh, yeah.
A date. So that would be fun to do something like that.
Well, okay, I'm going to throw one out here. This is like way from left field. What about Kasim?
Oh.
You're in a different demographic now.
Yeah, but he's
dateable. Before it was like, no, he's the dad. But it's like, is he? I don't know.
He's the deadbeat dad. Like he didn't.
Okay,
he ran away.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
So how do I I mean, I know you're coming back, and I mean, good on you for doing that now that you're trying to like do this, but at the same time, you're still, King of Thieves, and sure, you come back for the final moment but you're still gonna peace out and not gonna come back.
Yeah. I only mention him because he is hot. Attractive guys. Yeah, he
is hot. I will say that. Obviously, this is one of those things like, okay, that was a great episode, the Disney Dad episode.
Yeah, that's funny. This is from Kat. What animated feature do you stand by and legitimately enjoy, even though you know that objectively it's just not a good movie?
Chanticleer. I actually don't think that it is a bad movie.
It's not. No, it's the nostalgia effect. It's the nostalgia goggles.
But the
nostalgia fine.
Does pop it up quite a bit as compared. Like, it's not one of the greatest, no. But is it bad or even not a good movie? No, it is a good movie, but it's like mid-range, mid-tier kind of thing. But nostalgia for me, it is up there. What about you?
Oof, trying to think. A movie that is bad. Like, I know it's bad, but I really like it. If I like it so much, then I don't think it's bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, obviously.
Well, it's like with Twilight, we unironically love it, but we know that it's bad.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true. That's a good one. That's not an animated movie, but that's
right.
Yeah.
But that's one of those examples of like, it's a movie that I'm like, I can objectively look at this and think, wow. But at the same time, I love it.
This is like someone saying Chicken Little. Like, I know Chicken Little's really terrible, but I grew up watching it. I love it. It's amazing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I really have any of those that I should have pre-planned. I mean, a lot of these movies that people think are bad or sometimes have these cult followings. So you're thinking of like Treasure Planet, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. But I don't love those movies, but I understand they have cult followings. So yeah, I don't know.
Alex Beavis. Okay. There's the one that says, if you were a Disney executive and could announce a live action movie that would be remade into from an animated movie, which one would you choose? I think Atlantis. I mean, I feel like they could have done so much more with that. It needs a little help as far as the story, but other than that, like, it's got really great bones and bone structure.
He says, did you see this? Read this? I would love to see an animated Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
That would be awesome. So if a live action movie that could be remade as an animated movie. Trying trying to think of
we're getting Twilight.
Disney owns basically everything now. So I mean, it'd be cool to see on the flip side a live action Anastasia, which isn't Disney but it's animated. That'd be, I think, one of the ones that I maybe would be interested in, but then maybe not, because we saw the play and saw what they did there, and the mystical elements are a lot of fun.
They are.
But a live action movie, I mean, he mentions Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, Parent Trap maybe would be pretty cool.
Cat from Outer Space. Just gonna go with that one.
Okay. Rose says, do you think modern day Pixar is choosing to design their humans like Aardman characters? Example, Luca turning red. The teeth. Yes. The kidney bean teeth thing. There's like a name for this in animation, like bean mouth or something like that. But I think they're just trying to do something different. I think the Pixar style became very ubiquitous and expected and normal. It just was their style, and it kind of was copied. And so they were trying to find a new style, a new way. And it ended up sticking for a few movies. I mean, even in the new upcoming Disney Plus series, it's the baseball one. It's coming out in a few weeks. That one is a similar design. And I don't like it. It's not an appealing look to me. It feels, just feels kind of generic-y weird. It doesn't feel just like this iconic Pixar. But
yeah, it seems very like Nickelodeon. Which I'm not saying that as necessarily a dig. It just, Nickelodeon was not the high value entertainment that you would come to expect from Pixar.
Win or Lose, that's the name. That's the name I'm thinking of. Win or Lose. I'm interested in that. So that's a series where each episode is from the perspective of a different person. So let's see. Oh, Lauren, what is your stance on bringing toddlers and young children to the movies that are not geared towards them, even though they're animated? Example, How to Train Your Dragon series, Inside Out, possibly Toy Story 4. What I mean are the toddlers and young kids who can't sit still and create a disturbance to those of us who are here to enjoy the movie. Some of us who have to concentrate on movies as well as audio description. I had a really bad experience time when I went to see How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, where I couldn't concentrate on the audio description because the toddler in back of me was kicking my chair and talking. Yikes.
That would be annoying.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yes, that would be very annoying, Lauren.
I mean, I think I don't necessarily have a problem with it. With like the ones she mentions, How to Train Your Dragon, Inside Out, Toy Story 4, I feel like those they're for the most part family friendly. If we're talking Sausage Party, yeah, absolutely not. Like I have a firm stance. Don't bring your kids to rated R movies or even PG-13, like young kids. I just don't feel that it's appropriate to introduce them to things like that. But I mean, the family friendly ones, really the best way to avoid that situation is to go to a movie after 8 p.m. Because all those wee ones are in bed. If they're not, their parents most likely are not taken to a movie. If they are, do it on the weekday because, school night. Most parents aren't the cool parents where they're going to be bringing them to the movie theater, but never say never. But for the most part, that's one easy way to avoid those crowds. Don't go to the 10 a.m. crowd, especially on the $5 Tuesdays. That's going to be mad packed with kids and toddlers and screaming children galore. So yeah.
So my question for Lauren is, does she have like an audio? Does she wear a headset of some kind when she goes to these movies? So Lauren is blind, and so she has to listen to the as she mentioned, the one with the audio explanations of what's happening. But I have never been into a theater where they had that happening. So that is my question: is that something? I would assume that that's what it would be, but. So if she can let me know, I'd like to know what that experience entails.
I imagine some sort of headset that has the audio description of everything that's happening. Like this person is walking into a room. There's a loud noise. There's a big bang. She's wearing this color to kind of help you understand what's happening.
Right.
So let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any other ones. This is a nice, easy one. Mac and cheese from a box or homemade. So my mom really never made macaroni and cheese growing up. It was like this food that we did not have in our house. And it was very rare when we'd go to someone else's house and they'd have box mac and cheese. My mom, on the flip side, makes the most delectable, delicious homemade macaroni and cheese, and has like a little bit of paprika in it. Wow. Like a little bit of a kick. So good. Homemade mac and cheese. It's totally different. Typically you're getting like Gouda and all these other more exotic cheeses in the mix that make it really stringy and cheesy and delectable. And the box is just like the box because it's convenient. Powdered cheese, add some hot milk and call it good. So yeah, I like homemade mac and cheese, but sometimes they can be a little bit too much. Like I don't like my macaroni and cheese to have too big of a noodle. Like the noodle that you use is really important. Like there's certain noodles that are like as big as your fist, and I'm like, this isn't fun to eat. So I love a good spiral noodle.
Yeah, we used to get. My mom never bought like the Kraft macaroni and cheese, like normal stuff you would buy. If she did buy it, she would get the Velveeta ones with the like real kind of cheese
block
in it.
Of
the liquid cheese package inside of it. And those became very easy to make as a youngin'. I'd be like, I'm hungry. I'm going to make this because they were often off working. And so I was, as the youngest kid, I was like, well, I guess I'll make mac and cheese. And so I made a lot of that.
Yeah, we do the Annie's mac and cheese, which is an organic mac and cheese. And we only do it on Sunday. So Sunday before church or after church, depending on what time church is at, because it switches every year, they'll have lunch. And it used to be every Sunday. That's the only time we'd have it. They make macaroni and cheese. But now we've done it's every other week because it's mac and cheese. And then on the other week, my husband makes grilled cheeses. So yeah, making our dollars stretch further for those. That's a funny question. Underrated cartoons. Well, I think we've talked about this. Tangled, the animated series.
Yeah.
I think the way that that's structured on Disney Plus makes it really difficult to find because the first episode is a movie that has a different title. And so if you're watching that, I mean, you kind of, if you're not in the know, you would think, oh, this was a fun little movie. And I don't think you know to pick up on, I wish they would structure it better where it would lead you into the next, maybe it does. It's like, you should also check out this, but there should be a section, like sometimes you can click on like Toy Story and it will group them all by order. I think they need to do that. Or I think they should just like say, just kidding. Like this is episode 0 and like put it literally in. So that way it's very clear. This is it. So that's very underrated. There's so many good ones that definitely, are rated.
Yeah, no, because I didn't have like Nickelodeon, I didn't have cable, so it's like I really only watched what was on primetime TV, and so most of what I have watched were highly rated or at least well known because that was the one that everybody got for free.
Yeah. Yep. All right, our next email is from Michaela C, and it's titled Disney Sued. Hey, I love your podcast. Heart eyes emoji. Can you do an episode on Disney recently being sued? A lot of people are saying things and I want to know what's going on. Laughing face emoji. Your constant listener, Michaela C. Oh, thanks so much. So she didn't mention what particular lawsuit, because I'm assuming Disney's always being sued.
I mean, yeah. Well, there's a lot of, especially over the last year, they had so many different things going back and forth with Florida. And so, yeah, there's a lot to unpack with all of that. But if it comes down to anything, I don't know what else that she would be talking about other than what you sent me.
Yeah, so there is, my computer is freezing. So there is a lawsuit over Moana and now Moana 2. So basically this person, I'm trying to find this, his name is, I'm sorry, this website has lots of ads and it's throwing my computer for a loop. Trying to find the guy's name. Hold on. And my baby in the next room just woke up because he's sick. He has a double ear infection. and he's had a cough for 5 weeks. And so we finally took him to the doctor today. They gave him a breath treatment with a nebulizer, and then they gave him an oral steroid, which should kick in the next few days. And then he's on an antibiotic. So, okay, here we go. According to the lawsuit, according to Hollywood Reporter, animator/writer Buck Woodall has filed a lawsuit saying that Disney ripped off his project Bucky and is seeking a $10 million payout for the alleged stolen intellectual property. Per the lawsuit, Moana 2 does contain a number of similarities to Bucky. Like Disney's hit single, Bucky focused on Polynesian culture, both focus on teenagers who defy their parents, setting out on adventure and face off with the gods. So, apparently he tried to bring this back when Moana originally came out and was successful, and it didn't go anywhere in court. They're like, no, I mean, what you say, this legend that actually is a Polynesian legend, you say we ripped this legend off that was in your script? Like, yeah, not really. And there were some other things. It was like a teenager that defies their parents, really? So, yeah, because of Moana 2 goes and like does this again, I think he's seeing another opportunity to bring it back.
Well, from what it said that he had given it to somebody who eventually went and worked at DreamWorks, which I'm like, okay. Like there's just like these long paths that it's like, I don't think that this actually happened, dude. So, I mean, if you can show me a lot of the proof, then maybe I'll look in. I mean, cool. Okay. But, it just seems like, so for example, a lot of musical artists cannot like legally listen to, if I'm a songwriter and I go to a up and coming artist and I say, hey, can you listen to my song and maybe record it? Well, no, they don't ever do that. They don't ever accept music that hasn't been sought after. And the reason for that is because like at that point in time, anybody could then say, hey, I wrote those chords first. There are things that are always going to be the same. Like there's only like, 6 storylines is what it was. And so there's going to be things that are going to cross over. And so I just don't, unless you can actually prove that this thing got into somebody's hands. But like there was a quote from Ron Clements who was just like, yeah, I've never heard of this guy until I've seen this.
Yeah. So let me go back and correct a few things. So this goes back. So the problem that happened with Moana is that the filing was dismissed in court for the filing too late. So he missed the window for able to file. So now with Moana 2, I can come back around. So it's kind of the same thing. And what he's saying is this dates back all the way to 2003. He alleges that he sent the screenplay and trailer to Mandeville Films Director of Development, Jenny Marchick, now known for her work, like you said, at DreamWorks. He says that she asked for further material regarding Bucky, and the production studio had a first look deal with the Walt Disney Picture Company during this period, and Marchick allegedly claimed she couldn't get the film greenlit. Okay, so now there's like another person involved. So like, well, we tried, we couldn't get this greenlit. Disney's totally denying all of this. And Ron Clements, I mean, this is Ron and John, these like Disney legends. And he had declared to the court, Moana was not inspired or based in any way on Woodall or his Bucky project, which I learned of for the first time after this lawsuit was filed. So that's basically all that we have. And from, I'm not a legal expert, but just looking at this, it just doesn't, like all the similarities that he's claiming are in like every single movie. So and like you said, just don't send your scripts places. And if you do, like, don't be lame trying to get a payout for a movie for work that you didn't do. Like, don't be that guy.
I wrote those chords first.
Mozart from the grave.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Should we end it there?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. So I was trying to think what we should be doing for our next episodes. And I mentioned in the last one that, hey, let's do a few episodes that are Disney Plus. Anyways, I told you that I wanted to go back and watch a few more movies from 2023 and 2024. And There's so many. So, but let's just do Disney Plus because, I've been kind of like anti-Disney Plus movies and I usually don't see them. I don't think I've seen like hardly any of them. So I'm like, you know what, let's go back. So I'm going to throw out some Disney Plus movies for you. And I have a few that I thought would be good, but I want you to give me that as well. So there's so many that have been Disney Plus originals. Like they blew so much money into this, but I'm just going to talk about the ones that are like animation adjacent. So there's Lady and the Tramp. I guess you could do Godmothered, like live action. It's like fairy tale adjacent, so it fits.
Okay.
Soul, but we did Soul, and Soul, Luca, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, based on the book series. Turning Red, we already did it. We already did Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Pinocchio, this was with Tom Hanks.
Oh man.
Oof. I can't believe that was already September 2022. I feel like that was just last year.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus 2. Should probably save that for Halloween. Disenchanted. Check. Did it. Peter Pan and Wendy. And then there's a new Descendants movie that came out the past year. Rise of Red. I'm actually trying to be interested in that one. And
I see like 20 minutes of that at my brother's house.
Oh, okay. So you're already primed. And then the only other one I wanted to mention, they've actually done some pretty decent documentaries. And there's one that is Music by John Williams that came out last November, which I feel like that is such an SEO title. Music by John Williams. So that way when people type in Music by John Williams, the documentary pops up. Like, you're the worst. Okay. We not game the system that way. But anyways, so any of those tickle your fancy?
Oh, this is one of those of like pick your poison as far as what we should do next. I mean, I feel like we could probably do The Lady and the Tramp since it was the first one.
Okay. All right. So you're adding Lady and the Tramp to the list. So that's going to be our next one. And then I was thinking after that, we should do Peter Pan and Wendy.
Okay.
Okay. So these aren't necessarily animated films, but is that too much? Is that too many non-animated films for whatever? You know what? We're 333 episodes into this thing. We're going to be reviewing a whole bunch of episodes.
If you're just now joining us, we have lots to choose from.
Yeah. If you're like, this is the Animation Addicts podcast. Why is there no animation? Hello. Lady and the Tramp is based on an animated film. No, yeah. So I think, okay, cool. And then, maybe we'll do Music by John Williams. We'll see. I also really want to do The Boy and the Heron at some point.
I don't know what that is.
Studio Ghibli film with Robert Pattinson doing one of the main voices.
Nice.
Yes. Now you're on board. And then I did mention South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut, but that really doesn't fit into a theme. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to do my pick, Chelsea's pick, and then we'll do a poll. So we'll do a poll on, I'll put a link, I don't know.
In the email. So here's what we're going to do. I will send out a link to a survey, and you get to choose on the survey which one to go first. That link will be coming through the newsletter. So you go to rotoscopers.com/newsletter, and you will be able to sign up there. Basically what I do is I send out 2 emails a week. One is on a Sunday, generally talking about the movie that is upcoming. And then the day of the release, I send one out saying, hey, guess what? We released it. So that way you have a bit of a heads up of what is coming up next, as opposed to being like, oh, I've never seen this. Now I have to watch it before I can listen. So at least then you'll have some knowledge. And the reason why I choose Sunday is because sometimes we don't get around to recording it until like
sometimes we miss our recording date and we're like, before, hurry, we gotta record.
Yeah. Right. So that's why we do what we do.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to do Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan and Wendy. Man, a lot of these and movies. Potentially Music by John Williams, but definitely we're going to do a listener Disney Plus choice episode. So we'll have an array of suggestions that you can vote for, and then you guys get to pick what we're going to do. So that's going to be fun. That will be part of our Disney Plus series. Don't let us down. Don't pick a crappy one.
Please.
or maybe pick a crappy one. Just
whatever.
I mean, at some point I need to see Mulan. I've kind of been like anti,
no.
you know my stance on Disney remakes. Like,
I've already watched it though. Don't make me do it again.
You saw, yeah. I mean, yeah. Put it on the list just in case, Chelsea. But I just I'm not going to support these. But when it's been 5 years, 4 years, okay, fine. Like, I think I've proven my point. I'll do it for you guys.
I've held out.
All right. That's all we have for this episode of the Animation Addicts podcast. Remember, you can send us voicemails at any time. Rotoscopers.com/voicemails. You can give us a call at 406-646-6575. Send us an email at contact@rotoscopers. It's late. Contact@rotoscopers.com to let us know your thoughts. So if you want to send us speaking of, we have one of those, and I totally skipped over it. This one.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let me finish what I was saying, and then we can put this back up. Dang it. You can send us an email at contact@rotoscopers.com. If you have a question or a thought or something that you just want to do via email instead of voicemail, feel free. Put it there, and we will read it on our next mailbag show. So anytime, just send us these, and we will collect them in our very precious sack of mail and keep it handy for the next time. So that's all we have for this episode. Until next time, we are the Rotoscopers.
Hey, can you tell me if...
Hello, I'm recording You Are a Chipmunk.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I get it every time. All right, Chelsea, the big question for the big game, for the big day, Eagles or Chiefs?
Well, this year, because I'm feeling for the underdog. So I think I'm going to go more with the Eagles as opposed to the Chiefs, who have won several times in recent years.
Well, you know more about this than I do. I notoriously couldn't care less about football. And so I didn't even know this always happens every year. Like, I have zero idea who's in the Super Bowl until like the day of, a few days before. People ask me, and then somehow I find out. My son came to me yesterday and asked Eagles or Chiefs, and obviously I know which the football team names are, so I knew what he was referring to, and I knew it was coming up. And he had a big list that he was asking teachers, friends, people, and they had a list. And I couldn't count the number, but it looked about 20 people on his list said Eagles, and there were 3 people for Chiefs. But like you said, the Chiefs have won twice with the same quarterback, and this will be the 3rd time, which I guess is an NFL record. I don't remember who told me this. I think my chiropractor was telling me all about it yesterday. So this is the information that I've gleaned about the Super Bowl. And knowing none of that, when my son asked me, I said Eagles, because heck, why not?
There you go. And I feel here, I'll just be honest. The last season when they had, I really liked the whole Taylor Swift, thing addition in there for a time. But then after a while, I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't need more of this anymore.
Chelsea's checked out of that era. Gotcha.
So that was, So because that is also a reason I'm like, no, I would much rather see Eagles win.
Okay. You heard it here first, guys. Probably not, but
right.
For the Animation Addicts, that's out of our wheelhouse.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.